Hi everyone, it's Stu here, and finally I've got round to doing a comparative review. Some of you may remember that last time my TV updated itself all on its own, even though I had auto updates turned off. Thankfully this time, one of my subscribers, one of you guys, alerted me that the update was out. So I made a real fact of making sure my bloody TV wasn't going to do it again this time. Thankfully it didn't, and it's allowed me to do a real comparative review. To that end, the source material that I'm using is from Samsung. It's their uncompressed videos that are in HDR format, 10-bit, 60 frames per second. And what I'll do is what I've done before is where I put the 1241 version on the left, which was the older firmware, and then the 1242 on the right, running the same content at the same time, so you can then see, you know, which is which and which is better or not. Some of the things that I did note was one of the things you do need to note before we go to the video is that I recorded this at 4K HDR on my Samsung S10 phone. I did notice that the phone was adding a slight yellowy tint to it, and also that when the TV panel was sort of doing its HDR thing, the actual phone couldn't keep up with it, and it was causing some blooming, and I noticed there was a bit of that. There's also some points where it looks like the TV has some real backlight problems on sort of where it transitions from bright to very dark when it's changing the videos. That's actually just the phone trying to figure out what the hell's going on, the camera phone, rather than the TV screwing up. But overall, what you see is what I saw, and overall, I'm pretty impressed with the updates that we're getting. Surprised that we're still getting them, to be honest, with how tech is going the last few years. Predominant things that have come to the fore over the last couple of updates, last 2-3 updates, is the I believe a sort of a concentration on fixing a lot of the backlight issues, reducing bleeding and things like that. I've noticed also it seems to be getting brighter. I don't know whether that's just me, but it does seem to be a little bit brighter than it was before. Anyway, we will get on with the video, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's get on with the video. Thanks again. So here we have both of the firmwares. Firmwares? Is that a word? Both of the firmware running the same videos. One prior to the update on the left, which was 1241, and then running 1242, which is on the right hand 50% of the screen, running the 1242, the new update. And this is what I like to consider sort of like a comparative review, where we're looking at the same footage running at the same time in the same environment using the same settings. And if you wanted to know what the settings were, you can go back to the beginning of this YouTube video, and you can see in a little sort of pop-up video, you'll see the settings that I'm using. So, you know, it's the same environment, both recorded on the same camera in a darkened room. And one of the things that I did note, one of the things you should pay attention to is with the camera, it does show some blooming. That's more to do with the camera than anything to do with the actual TV. The blooming that you do see and some of the sort of what you would sort of assume is light bleeding looks like excessive light bleeding is in fact the camera not being able to sort of deal with the massive changes. Like we can see on the right and here a little bit, we can see a little bit of bleeding. Actually, that didn't actually appear on the TV at all. What we can see is that there is, I think, a change in the how the backlight is being used. The images seem to be a little bit darker. And the control of the backlight, there seems to be better control of it. We're getting a little bit out of sync on the video a little bit for some reason, but you'll get you get the same idea of what's going on. So overall, what I thought with the new update, I found that it just seemed a bit more natural. The colors seemed a little bit more colorful, if that's they felt less, they were kind of a bit too saturated, I felt, on the old update, and less so on this one, with better sort of control of the backlight. It seemed to didn't sort of wash out a lot of colors. But, you know, it's all subjective, of course, as you can see here running side by side. You know, sometimes you would have a preference more towards the old version than the new one, and so on. So, but for me, I think the last few updates that we have had from Samsung have been used predominantly to address the issues with the backlighting, limiting bleeding, controlling that sort of blooming that we get a lot with, like we can see here. It's exaggerated because the camera's picking it up more than what your eye does. And when I was watching this on the TV, the blooming and the sort of haloing sort of white glow around bright objects in a dark screen was much less than what we're seeing here. And now the video is getting very out of sync, which I'm going to have to try and fix. So hopefully when you do see this, the syncing will be completely sorted. But overall, for me, I felt that the backlight, what we've seen over the last few updates with Samsung, it seems to be a thing that they're getting real hands on with the last few updates. And it's not going to be perfect. It never will be. Certainly won't be to where the latest TVs are at now. But it's certainly, in my opinion, a large improvement on what we've seen over the last, since the TV was released. There was a real problem with it. I will, of course, when I've had a good amount of time to sit down with this new update, come back to you guys with my settings to let you know what I think. But overall, you know, these updates predominantly I've been quite happy with them. That there has been some real improvement on them over the last sort of few updates, last 3 or 4 certainly. And rather than the disaster was the first few updates that we got when the TV first came out. But of course, again, you know, this is all very subjective. It's all a matter of preference. Again, so are my settings. You know, I sort of set it how I like it. The camera is kind of blowing these colors a little bit more than what they are on my TV. The Samsung, I'm using a Samsung S10. And it's picking it up and it's doing its Samsung thing, which Samsung phones tend to do. This sort of the images are too colorful in many regards. So you can kind of sort of tone that down a little bit. So yeah, I wouldn't get too worried about what you're seeing here as opposed to what you would see, and assume that it's the update or my settings. My settings are actually a little bit lower than what we're seeing here with these colors. Again, with that whole sort of what would seem as sort of a light bleeding going on, that wasn't there. That's just my camera on my phone on the S10 trying to deal with what's going on with all the drama that's going on with the TV. So yeah, I will do another video that shows you what my settings will eventually be. Hopefully I can fit out the syncing of fix the syncing of the videos, because right now they were in sync and now they've moved out of sync. So hopefully I can get that fixed. So hopefully when you do see this, they are working side by side just fine. But overall, my feelings on the update seem to be okay. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Are you happy with the updates that you're getting for your TV? If you're using this 1241 update, what are you using it on? Which version of the TV are you using it on? Are you experiencing any improvements? Any things that are not improved and have in fact sort of gone backwards? Let us know. And also, I always think this is a good opportunity for all of us to share our settings as well. So if you feel that way inclined, let us know what your settings are too, because ultimately, you know, we do things that we feel are best for us and for our own viewing environment. So let us know what they are, and hopefully you know, we can share and be this merry little gang of nerds that we are. So I hope this video is helpful. Look out for my settings video, which I'll do probably in the next couple of weeks. Have a good opportunity to sit down with what we have here. And I'll see you next time. If you like this video, by the way, and others like it, don't forget to subscribe. Take care.